One Daring Adventure is about noticing beauty, telling the truth about what's hard, and daring to live anyway. Today, with Daring to Live Anyway, I want to talk about the things that kept my 20-year dream to move abroad a dream. And it's probably not what you'd expect. A lot of emphasis in fundamentalism that women are really emotional and that you can't trust your emotions. And so, women get this bad rap for having emotions, and then men have to repress their emotions, even though emotions, by the way, are a human thing, not a feminine, masculine thing. Everybody has emotions, friends. Actually, the thing that kept me putting off my dream to live abroad, because I was a cross-cultural studies major. I had the opportunities to study abroad and live abroad for a semester. I had opportunities, and I did not take them. And that goes back to my history with high control religion. So I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Presbyterian Church USA, and that was a really great experience. My faith was really important to me. I went to a college that was Presbyterian college, and I got sucked into a pretty fundamentalist church as a freshman in college. And it's really interesting. I'm probably going to have this be a consistent topic here. High control religion, high control groups, which, by the way, it doesn't have to be religion to have high control red flags. I think one of the most fascinating things that I've learned in the last few years as I've been processing, especially the time at that church, high control situations have just really similar red flags. These could be political groups. These could be MLMs. These could be church groups. These could be parachurch organizations. These could be personal development groups. These could be any sort of spiritually group, various religions, not just churches. Anyway, there are a lot of high control groups in the world. And I think what's fascinating about them is that they do all have the same red flags. And for me, the red flags that kept me from living abroad, from pursuing a dream to live in a different country, from traveling more, all of those things that were on my heart to do as a person, as a woman, as a teenager, all those things I put aside really for the mission. So each high control group has a mission. Anyway, what the mission isn't that important in the context of this conversation, but every high control group has a thing that they're pressuring you to do. They have a lot of things, let's be honest, that they're pressuring you to do. And for me, as a woman in this patriarchal system, there was a lot of pressure to not do what I wanted. By the end, you guys, I didn't even know what I wanted. They really suck your individuality out of you in high control groups. And so I couldn't have even told you what I really wanted. I look back at the things that I said and wrote in journals during that time, and I sounded like an automatron. I don't recognize myself. Yeah. Anyway, so one of the red flags for high control groups is that they discourage you from trusting your intuition because, different groups have different reasons for, well, the ultimate reason is because they're trying to control you. And so if you're listening to your intuition, you're not very controllable. The reason why they tell you you can't trust your intuition is different in different groups. And so, for groups who are using the Bible, it's often, the heart is deceitful, sin, you're not trustable, your heart is wicked, you're bad, you're bad. So you can't trust yourself. So regardless of like what you think theologically, I'm not really going to go, the dogs are everywhere. I'm really not going to go into that and like where I am right now, because it's really none of your business, internet. But I will say that those very specific verses are really, really emphasized, especially in fundamentalism, and especially toward women, because women, from my observations anyway, tend to be more intuitive, or I would say tend to have their intuition better honed than men overall. Obviously, that's not a hard and fast rule. It's just something that I've noticed. Anyways, yeah, so there's this really, really consistent thread of rejecting your own feelings, your own emotions, your own intuition. So, I mean, my desire to live abroad was very emotional. My emotions were tied up in it because it mattered to me. It was something that I cared about. It was something that I felt drawn to really since I was a child, I was interested in other cultures and people from other places and traveling. Like, these things lit me up my whole life. And yet when I ended up being in that high control church environment, I was taught repeatedly, like, no, you can't trust yourself. And they aren't always like saying it that directly, but you're just being indoctrinated with these ideas of like not trusting yourself. And like for the international piece of things, what you're really being hammered in is like, no, you have to go somewhere where there's a local church. And it can't just be a church. It can't just be a Christian church. Like, it has to be a church that believes exactly the same way that we do, because we know everything and we know the right way to be Christians. And those other churches in town, not even to mention the other churches in the world, they don't know. I don't care if they say that they're Christian. I don't care if they also read the Bible. Like, that's the mentality. It's just like, no, everyone else is wrong and we are right. That's another red flag. If everyone else who's also a Christian church in town is somehow wrong and your Christian church is the only one that's right out of all the Christian churches, that's a red flag. Anyways, so this really limits where you can go in the world, right? Because you have to basically go to a church in America. And if you don't go to a church in America, I didn't finish my thought. You have to go to a church in America where the people who are the pastors have been trained to think like your very, very small slice of Christianity that you're in. And so there was this huge pressure to like be involved in the local church. But it can't just be any local church. And it has to believe this certain way. And then basically like very doomsday, And if you don't go somewhere where you go to a church that has this very specific doctrinal belief that we have, then they're wrong and they'll probably lead you astray. So it's extremely fear-based, red flag, instead of like freedom-based. And what a beautiful world that God has made. And wow, God is bigger than America. So you can go anywhere and God will be there. It's a crazy idea, right? So there's a lot of fear instilled in Christian fundamentalism that you're going to do it wrong and you're going to fall away and you're going to ruin your life and you're going to ruin your kids' lives and you're going to ruin your marriage. And so I didn't want to do any of those things. I didn't want to ruin everything for myself and everybody that I love. And so I definitely just didn't choose to pursue the things that I really wanted to pursue. Again, by the time that this high control situation and church was done with me, like I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. I had been brainwashed. I don't know any other word to use except brainwashed. Like I didn't sound like myself. I think another red flag would be any group that tells you, oh no, what you were doing before was completely wrong. And especially if it's like a similar group, right? Like, oh, no, that other shake powder. I'm drinking shake powder right now because I like it. Not because it's the only one that's good in the world, protein powder. Anyway, there are so very many high control culty type of things where it's like the whole point is to convince you that everything that you've been doing before was wrong. And we're the only right kind of this thing. We're the only right kind of philosophy. We're the only right kind of church. We're the only right kind of protein powder and wellness, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of culty things out there. I just wanted to bring this up because I do think that a lot of people in America have been impacted by groups like this, or sort of this groupthink that's very unhealthy groupthink that stops you from really tuning in to what you actually care about, that asks you to give up your whole self. I mean, some families are this way. Cult of one exists in abusive relationships with narcissists. Like, a lot of the red flags are really similar, like stripping away your autonomy, stripping away your intuition, telling you that you can't trust yourself for whatever reason. And so for me, I thought I was wrong. I thought that the things that I wanted were wrong, and that I was really bad at everything that was right. Like, I'm really good at like travel planning and adventuring and living in an unconventional way. Like, these are the things I'm actually good at in life. And I really, really believed that instead of doing that, I needed to be who I like to call Becky Homeki. I needed to like make my bread from scratch, and I needed to, I don't even know, keep my house super clean and always be available for my husband for everything, and like not have my own life, like completely sacrifice myself for my children. And like, none of these things in themselves are bad, but like, it just was not me at all. I am not Becky Homeki, for better or for worse, though I do like decor. Decor is fun. I think the thing that really surprised me in the end was that I was okay, just the way that I am. And that the teenage version of me actually was really on to something with what she was interested in. And I think that she would be very proud of me now. I think she would be shocked that I have 5 children. That's maybe another discussion for another day. Also having to do with the high control environment. But I think she would be really excited that I live internationally. I think that little me would be very, very excited that I have exposure to so many different cultures and so many different countries at this point in my life. Yeah, I want to encourage you to think about little you, and maybe if there are dreams that you perhaps don't even want to admit to yourself anymore, because it hurts. I just remember how many tears I cried over that 20-year period when I would be excited about the possibility of something and then I would talk myself out of it because I didn't believe that my own desires were worth following for whatever reason, for some of those different red flag reasons that I talked about. I learned to dismiss myself. And I think a lot of women in my age group are learning to stop dismissing ourselves. The pressure to do that can come from a lot of different places. And I've been on a couple different podcasts recently where we've talked about like the blueprint that we're given. High control groups give you a blueprint, but other groups also give you a blueprint. Families give you a blueprint. Often as a woman, like this is what it means to be a woman. This is what it means to live a good life. And I just want to say, if you don't really feel like you're good at those things, or if life hasn't afforded you those more traditional paths, you're in good company. And I would just say live into it. If you would like to hear more about our Move Abroad story, here are some different videos that you could look at, and I'll see you a different day.